Winning cures everything. Now for your hosts, Gary and Chris.
Welcome in, Winning Cures Everything. It is the Thursday, April 15th edition, the 14th edition of the show. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
I got to get my dates right, man. I am so confused this week. I don't know why I'm so jacked up. I guess it's the week before tax day or something, which, I would imagine most people probably got that stuff done. I got my stuff handled, so we good to go on that. But, but the numbers have just left me this week. It's they have divorced themselves from my brain this week for whatever reason. We have got a ton. We got a lot to talk about, man. Let's start off with this. Of course, we're going to talk football. Everybody that watches the show knows that we like to talk football mostly, and we have been talking about everything but football for the past however long because we've had Masters and baseball started, et cetera, right? But let's talk baseball for just a minute. Clayton Kershaw pitches a perfect game for like 7 innings, and then he got pulled due to a pitch count. And, I mean, this is like early in the season. This is the first couple weeks of the season. Well, first week of the season. What are we doing here? I know you've got to have a thought on this. If you are that close to a perfect game. Now, he's had a no-hitter before, but this was a perfect game. Like, they're two different things. So
very different.
Why
one every Tom, Dick, and Harry is on a no-hitter.
Yeah, they really have lately.
Especially in the days of analytics and people just swinging for the fences and, 200 strikeouts and 20 home runs kind of stuff. But perfect game, special. Perfect game is just different.
Yes. So what are they doing pulling him from this game and not giving him that opportunity?
So my thought on it is a little different than most, okay? I love baseball, all right? And I understand that these things are important. And I understand. I'm fully aware of the value and importance of a perfect game on a big-time pitcher's resume. But I really, really hate the Dodgers. I'm not a Clayton Kershaw fan, so I don't give a damn. I just don't give a shit that he got pulled and he didn't get a chance to. Okay? Just don't care.
Yeah, okay.
That's
I can get
thought.
that. I can get that. That does make sense. So
you're a team of mercenaries, and every year you lose in the playoffs. You take whoever beat you in the playoffs, and you go steal their best player away to try to build a championship. And all you got to show for it after a decade, 10 years of doing this shit, Gary. They didn't just start this stuff last year. 10 years of just loading your team up with mercenaries. You got one bullshit COVID year championship. Congratulations.
Yeah, it is a team of mercenaries.
You and the Lakers, baby. Woohoo!
They have certainly done
COVID
that.
was the only time y'all could win anything.
Which is absolutely insane, right? Like, just looking at it, I don't understand, just on a player level, why you would do that. Like, I am certain that Clayton Kershaw did not want to come out of that game. Like,
I don't know about that. And the only reason I say that is because, and this is not me hating on him, I think Clayton Kershaw has the clout to be able to make it clear, I would like to stay in this game, I would like to pitch. And I think he could make an argument, and we at least see the discussion be made. There was no discussion. It seemed as if he understood this was the plan. He agreed to the plan before the game had started and never foresaw himself being in this situation. And so they just stick to the plan. And I don't think that's right or wrong of him. I'm just telling you, he put a bunch of a fight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can get with this. That's it's so strange to me because again, we don't see the perfect games all that often, right? And the chance of actually getting one of those would have been, I think, something to add to a pretty awesome career already anyway. But you might be right. Like maybe.
Wait, hang on now. We can't just go ahead and say he would have gotten it though. All right, I've watched baseball long enough to know. I've seen many a perfect games get busted up in the eighth and the ninth inning.
And this is true.
So,
this is true. It's just not.
Let's just be real careful. We just start saying, well, we're going to – because that's the world we live in now, right?
Right.
We're just going to give him the perfect game, right? Like, that's what 2022 sports analysts and sports fans look at. They say, oh, we'll just hang the banner. I mean, shit. He technically was perfect. So,
I mean, he was perfect for 7 innings. If it had been a doubleheader last year, then yeah, it would have been a perfect game. Which is, looking at that's kind of insane, right? The fact that we could have had a perfect game in a 7-inning game and it would have counted the same. Like, either way.
It's a strange land and a strange world that I just feel like I do not belong anymore. I feel like I am an alien.
Well, because it changes.
Living amongst people that I'm not comfortable anywhere.
It just changes all the time. Just all the time. Speaking of changing, we'll talk about changing landscapes. Let's move over to college football for just a bit. Brian Kelly. Now, since you and I last spoke, Brian Kelly decided at some point, I don't know if he did it accidentally. It's kind of hard to accidentally share something on Instagram stories. I think you kind of have to have a purpose when you get in there. But he shared a Twitter post on his Instagram stories that read like this. It was from @Stinky173. Go ahead.
It's a screenshot.
It's a screenshot. Yeah.
Of a tweet from 18 months ago?
Yes. No. From like 3 or 4 months ago. It's from January 4th, 2022.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the tweet happened a long time ago. And the tweet was public knowledge, public information, out into the ethos. Everybody saw it, right?
Yep. You got that right. So here's the Twitter name is @Stinky173025153, right? Just a generic Twitter name, whatever. And it was replying to a big time Irish, fighting Irish Twitter handle. It said, everyone who is connected with sources inside the current program knows that Notre Dame AD is retiring in 2 years along with President Jenkins. Jack wanted to please the people, so he didn't search for a coach and hired Marcus. Hope he made the right choice, but I doubt it. Now, Brian Kelly
these are not Brian's words. These are somebody else's words.
Well,
Brian somehow screenshotted 18 months ago.
4 months ago, but regardless.
Whatever.
Yeah.
4 months ago.
But he screenshotted this, but here's the deal. Do we know that those are not Brian's words? Like, is there a possibility that this is Brian Kelly's burner account? I think there's less than zero chance that this is Brian Kelly. Why would he screenshot his own tweet? You got me.
Only to accidentally share it out later. I've never screenshotted a tweet that I made.
You're 100% right about that. You're 100% right about that.
That goes against, and I don't know how to use technology. Brian Kelly and I are basically the same person when it comes to our abilities to use. He might be more advanced with this shit than I am. Okay, because he hangs out with 18-year-olds, and I don't. So
it's who knows? I doubt it. I doubt that. But this whole situation we saw last summer. Brian Kelly did say at a Notre Dame news conference or press conference or whatever that Marcus Freeman was going to be the next coach, and then he, of course, everybody took it to mean he was going to be the next coach at Notre Dame. Everybody kind of followed up with that and was like, "Okay, are you saying you're about to retire? Like, what is going on here?" And it ended up coming to fruition. So this person says anybody who's connected inside the program knows that the AD and the president at Notre Dame are going to retire in 2 years, and that Jack just wanted to please everybody, so he didn't even do a search. He just hired in-house. What, do you think there's any truth to this?
About that part, probably.
I think there is.
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But once again, this is coming from some bullshit unnamed source.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And you can never tell what to take seriously and what not to. I do find this interesting that Brian Kelly, who is as well connected inside that program as anybody, inside of Notre Dame, that he would have screenshotted this, right? Like,
hang on now. You don't just screenshot things that you agree with. I screenshot stuff all the time that I think is insane, and I send it to you guys all the time.
That is true.
And say, hey, you see what these dumbasses are saying? Do you see what the rumors are going on around here? Like, look how moronic these people are. Like, we don't know that conversation wasn't being had, and that's why he screenshotted it and wasn't on his phone. Now, I'm not defending the man because I don't know anything about it, but just the assumption that he screenshotted something is like affirmation of it, that he agrees with these thoughts, or that he might have possibly said them. Like that, I think you have to spin a big ass yarn to get that. You have to do some mental gymnastics to get there.
Okay. I can maybe see that. I think that I would believe if he was going to keep this on his phone, that because there's nothing that's funny or necessarily insane about this, right?
No.
This is just somebody talking about, hey, anybody that's connected knows that these two guys are going to retire.
Let me tell you what I would do. So if you and me worked together, if you were the president of the University of Memphis,
okay,
and I was your old football coach and I left, and we have a good relationship, okay, and I saw this tweet, I would screenshot something like that, and I would send it to you. And I'd say, you better be careful because word's getting out that you're thinking of doing this. I know you're probably not on Twitter because you're a 70-year-old man running a school and you're not doing this, but I see these things, or somebody sent it to me. We don't know that he screenshotted it.
True.
You know, somebody could have sent it to him, and he saved it to send it to someone else. But
now,
that's the conversation you and I would have if I saw a tweet like that about you.
Now, but what you're saying,
or
though,
if I had a relationship with Marcus, which I think Brian does, it's probably not a bad relationship, seeing the fact that he gave him a hell of a raise and a hell of a job opportunity. Okay,
this is true.
And I would shoot it to Marcus, and I would say, hey, just know that everybody out there in Notre Dame is not your friend. So be real careful of the things you say and the things that you do, and all this stuff, and best of luck. You know,
there's no telling.
Keeping you in the loop that things aren't always what they.
He could have sent it to the school president or to Jack Swarbrick, or he could have sent it to Marcus Freeman. There is no telling. Yeah. I don't think it necessarily paints any of them in a bad light or anything like that. I mean, obviously, you would hope that Marcus Freeman would be hired for his football acumen as opposed to he was just trying to make the fans happy, right?
100%.
But if you're trying to make the fans happy, honestly, you could do that by going out and doing a search and bringing in Luke Fickell or whoever you brought in. I think was going to make a lot of people happy anyway, because I think a lot of people were done by Ryan Kelly. So the fact that he shared this out and then deleted it right after, that is the...
Well, I'm sure because it wasn't meant for
public consumption, right?
Yeah. Look. Yeah.
Blows my mind.
Well, I mean, that's not a complicated thing. I got a lot of screenshots on my phone, or a lot of things on my phone, and every time I try to tweet a picture, like I have to look and recheck. Is this what I was trying to send? And is this going to go in the order I want it to go in? Just.
Oh yeah.
It's not as easy for old people, Gary. It's just not.
No, it totally makes sense. Like I've got an iPhone, and it is complicated. I don't always know exactly what I'm sending when I do it, so hence why you try and create photo albums, you try and do something to keep stuff separated and all that kind of mess. But it is a bit of a thing, right? It's trying to figure out what you're going to do with it. In this situation, I am very curious because we did have the slip of the tongue last summer, and now we've got this.
Well, I'm not worried about the slip of the tongue last summer. I mean, whatever. But me, you, and our boys from Northwestern, because John refuses to get an iPhone, just absolutely refuses, and so I won't get in a group chat with him. So we went and found WhatsApp, right?
Yes.
And I think Scuzz or somebody suggested that, which was great. When everything they send to me in a picture, it goes to my photo album. So the chances that Brian Kelly might use something that is peer-to-peer encrypted as a texting feature with a lot of people is probably pretty strong. There's a pretty good opportunity that
I would imagine
he uses that, and that means somebody else could have sent him that screenshot, and it got on his phone.
That is true. He may not have screenshotted this at all.
Because you don't have to save anything. I've got 19 million pictures of Scuzz's barbecue saved on my phone, and my wife keeps asking, "What are these grills? When did you buy that?" It's like, I didn't. That's not mine. Leave me alone.
I can show you how to turn that off. I'll fix that.
Well, I don't. But all right. So once again, I, dumb who doesn't really know how to use all this technology that's on my phone. These are simple things. I really don't care. Nothing unless Brian Kelly is the one that said these things. Then we've got a problem. Okay. But I would find that to be hard to believe that, because here's the deal. He could do nothing but good things for Brian Kelly's reputation for Marcus to be a successful head coach.
Yeah.
Because that means he's really good at hiring people. Okay. That he gave somebody an opportunity on a monster platform at Notre Dame. Okay. That ended up being a very successful and good head coach. So there's just no benefit for Brian Kelly for hoping for Marcus's failure. That just doesn't exist.
I do agree with you. The only thing would be if Brian Kelly could not win a national title there, and then Marcus Freeman does. I mean, that's the only other step, right?
All right, but then you got to look at, well, Brian Kelly got us to this point, right?
True, like he built it.
At some point in time, Notre Dame was miles away, and Brian Kelly making the playoff or the BCS title game all of these times. Eventually, now the next guy comes in and takes him over the hump. So I don't even know if that's a huge knock on your resume.
You got a point there. You got a point. So the idea of the Twitter account, by the way, being at Stinky whatever it is, the Twitter account was deactivated very shortly after Brian Kelly deleted the picture off of the Instagram. Apparently, you go back and look at some of the tweets, and it's somebody that was basically he started tweeting a month after Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, and it was somebody that was a huge apologist and supporter of Brian Kelly. And then, of course, it is so we don't know for certain, but it is very interesting that all of these things are happening at the same time, right? Like we have to at least admit that because he tweeted a lot of stuff. I mean, there was a lot that was out there.
I would think that after something like this, the reason that Twitter account gets taken down is because that person is now being bombarded with tweets, which is why they would take it down. I can't speak to why it didn't exist before then, but I can tell you why it would get taken down. It's probably because the shit show that's coming their way now.
Very possible. Very, very possible. But who knows? Who knows? Let me do the reads right quick, and then we will talk a little more about Notre Dame and some other things that have gone on. WinningCuresEverything.com, that is the website. You can find everything that you need to know about us over there. I do have an article that is not quite up, but will be up Thursday evening. So go ahead and check it out. It's the top 10 teams, I guess, that are better than what their record was in 2021. And then I'll have another one next week, the teams that are worse. I'm working on an excitement index next week, all kinds of different stuff coming over there. So I'm going to get back into this swing of writing because I have missed it. So winningcureseverything.com is where all of that will be posted. Along with that, make sure you are subscribed on the podcast. Make sure and leave a 5-star written review at any of your favorite podcast apps, whichever ones will allow you to rate. Go ahead and do that for us. I know Apple does and Spotify as well. So go ahead and knock those out. YouTube, subscribe on the YouTube page. If you're watching us over there right now, click that like button on the video and jump into the comments. We would love to hear your thoughts on all of these different topics. And along with that, you can always reach out to us on Twitter. Both of us, Chris and myself, always respond to DMs, etc. So go ahead and knock that out. I am at Gary WCE. Chris is at Chris B. Giannini. And I am, we are together at Winning Cures. So go ahead and check that out. And you can also find me. If you want to hear gambling talk, etc., you can find that over at BetUSTV.com. Now, let's talk right quick about the visitor that was at Notre Dame this week, and that would be one Coach Ed Orgeron, who is kind of touring around, going to different football complexes, etc. I believe, was it his son that was looking at Notre Dame for something? There was some reason why he was there. But also, remember, Coach O and Marcus Freeman, honestly, like Freeman would have been at LSU if it had not been for Brian Kelly swooping in really at the last minute and making him an offer that he could not refuse. This is interesting stuff because Coach O came in and spoke to the team and told them that they are going to win a national title with this group that is in this room. One, do you really believe that he believes that? And then two, what is the purpose of all of this? Like, obviously, we know Coach O still under contract at LSU. I don't know that he's looking to get back into coaching this early. I mean, it's only been a few months since he's been gone. I'm curious your thoughts on everything that has gone on in South Bend there.
I don't look. I think he's on just like a public speaking tour. That's it. I'm going to bet that there's a chance he was probably paid to come speak to the team. If I had to guess, maybe not. I don't know. Him being under contract with LSU is irrelevant. Like he's been terminated, and they're paying out his contract over time. But that's completely irrelevant. He's free to go do anything he'd like to do. I love Coach O, and I appreciate what he did at LSU and what 2019 was. I'll never forget. Going there and doing this, great, no problem. He's always been a rah-rah, encouraging, motivational guy. And I bet all those guys, when he left there, felt like we can win a national championship. I don't think he really believes that, but I think that's the Coach O rah-rah. And I don't know that I believe that, which I want good things for the name. I like the Irish. I like them.
Of course.
I like Marcus Freeman. I just think the talent separation between them and the top-tier teams around the rest of the country we've seen over the last 10 years be pretty big, just pretty damn big. So.
And don't get me wrong, I think Marcus Freeman will help bridge that gap a little bit. I don't know that he can bridge it enough to be able to overtake the few programs that are at the top of the sport right now.
The argument that I heard, and this is the best argument for why I don't believe this, and I'll mimic and rip off from where I don't even remember where I heard it. Or I wish I'd give them credit for it. But it was, can Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame recruit to compete at a top 22 level player? Yes. Can they compete for the top 65 kids? No. And therein lies the problem. Is starter for starter, they might be able to hang with the best teams in the country. But at some point in time, subs are going to come in the game. And when those subs rotate in, that's when mayhem happens, because the subs at the best schools in the country are rotating in are just as good as every starter on the field. There just aren't enough spaces for them. And the subs at Notre Dame are going to significantly drop off, and that's where the damage is going to happen. Can you hang with a school for a quarter or two? Yeah. Why is it in the fourth quarter not even close? Because that's when depth takes over. And
we'll get to see that really
with that.
Like first week of the season because it's going to be rather warm in Columbus, Ohio when they head over to face Ohio State. You might see a close game early. But then, of course, once Ohio State subs come in and Notre Dame subs come in, then, I think you're right. And that's where we'll see the
problem is what Marcus Freeman's doing this year. Listen, the guys you recruit this year aren't significant playmakers this year unless you're going and getting transfers, okay?
You got it.
And Notre Dame's, they're not pulling a ton of transfers. So I think we're going to see the fruits of Marcus really being able to compete in year 2 or 3 as he builds that program up a little more. But I don't know that they can hang it with the top 22 right now for the best in the country.
Yeah, you might
be
right.
And that's not a knock on Notre Dame.
No, of course not. No, of course not. I think Ohio State opened a 13-point favorite, and honestly, I don't know that that's enough.
No, regardless of if it's enough, regardless of if Notre Dame covers or not, that number seems about right, though, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Like, to get anybody being willing that's not a Notre Dame fan, to get a general Joe the public to bet on Notre Dame, you got to make it close to a 2-touchdown game.
Yeah.
Because we have history of this.
Yeah, you are not wrong. You are not wrong about that. Let's move off to a little more college football talk. JT Daniels, leaving Georgia. He has announced that he is headed to West Virginia. He is going to reunite with former offensive coordinator at USC, Graham Harrell. Graham Harrell was at North Texas, and then he packed up and headed out to L.A., and, of course, JT Daniels was the starter for the first game. He gets hurt, tears his ACL. Then, of course, you've got, and I forget the kid's name now, Keaton Slovis. And he, of course, is headed to Pittsburgh now. But JT Daniels is, headed on over to West Virginia. I find this to be a very intriguing fit, right? Because you've got an experienced yet unproven quarterback who has played for a winning team, obviously, in Georgia. He's dealt with some injuries, but if he's healthy, you know that he can fit into that offense. I'm curious your thoughts here. Like, Neil Brown swapped over his OC. They finally got rid of what we on the BetUS College Football Show used to call Schrodinger's quarterback in Jared Dagey. Like, you never knew what you were going to get from that guy. And obviously we don't know what we're going to get from JT Daniels. But the thought process here is pretty good. You got a guy that knows this system already coming in. West Virginia, surprisingly, there's a lot of talent in that wide receiver core if their offensive line can hold up. Letty Brown ain't coming back, but, there's promise there. This could possibly be maybe a breakout year at West Virginia. What say you?
I like the move for JT Daniels. I like the move for West Virginia. I like the move for Neil Brown. And I do think that West Virginia now is a player, because we thought they've been getting better, but just the inconsistent quarterback play over the last couple of years has just made it impossible for them to be a consistent football team. And I don't think JT Daniels needs to be a Heisman hopeful, star mega guy. Just don't turn the ball over. Just run a stable offense, make some big plays, and don't make the big mistakes. And this is a huge upgrade for West Virginia.
Yes, it is. I will say this: their defense, no matter who has left, they always come to play, no matter what. Even after Vic Kenning was fired, summer of 2020, I think, is when all that stuff went down. 2020 and then 2021, they just had a hodgepodge of a staff handling the defense, and they've been good, like really good on defense. So as long as you can get the offense to be somewhat consistent, I think you got good things in store. Like, and who knows what the Big 12 is going to look like? Not necessarily in the future, but I'm just saying this season. Like right now, ESPN's FBI came out and had Texas ranked number 6 in the country, and we know how that goes. But Oklahoma just lost their head coach. Oklahoma State just lost the defensive coordinator. We saw what Baylor was last year, but was that just a flash in the pan, or is Dave Aranda really building a juggernaut there? Like, who knows? So the Big 12 could just be completely up for grabs, and if you finally got you a quarterback at West Virginia, like I kind of would expect pretty big things there. So obviously there are some inexperienced players that are going to have to prove it on the field. But yeah, I'm with you. I really like this move. JT Daniels, it kind of gets him out of the spotlight a little bit. Like when you go to USC a year early, he was still supposed to be a high school senior when he started all those games at USC that first year. Then he comes out the next year, gets hurt, gets beat out, and then he transfers to Georgia and is never really healthy. But when he was healthy at the end of that 2020 season, you saw what that Georgia offense can be with him and George Pickens and whatnot. He was never really healthy in 2021. If he can go to West Virginia and be healthy, stay out of the limelight a little bit, absolutely. I think good things for all of them. So I do agree with you on that. Let's stay in the Big 12, which will eventually be SEC. Did you see the comments from the defensive lineman Moro Ojomo talking about the culture of Texas?
Yep, and the NIL deals.
NIL and just everything. Here, I'll read some of these quotes because, boy, this was just glorious. Absolutely glorious. Some of these quotes that made their way into the media availability, which I'm so curious, where in the world was the SID? Like, who was supposed to shut this down? He said they're 18 to 22-year-olds that want to chase women, want to chase money, want to chase alcohol, and they don't see the future. They're very distracted by what's in front of them. It's such a hard thing, especially guys that haven't been in a winning culture. That's why it's very easy for a lot of these powerhouses to keep going because it's established. The new guys just come in and they're like, oh, shit, this is how we have to do it. Oh, shit, this is what we do. It's just so much more difficult. He said they always talk about coming here and changing stuff. Coming here, changing stuff, it's like it's ingrained. You're uprooting what? 10 years of shit that's just been let go and go by? They're more worried about being on 6th Street than like balling and making $50 million as crazy as hell. I don't know why. He talks on and on and on about NIL deals, about guys don't want to spend time together, just everything. And how, which obviously, I think the coaches would agree with this. Now, Sark came out and said, yo, he's not going to talk to y'all again for a little while. And his explanation behind that was, if you're going to be a good teammate, then you're going to say this stuff in the locker room. You're not going to come out and say it to the press, right? You're going to get this stuff fixed in-house first. But I don't think Sarkisian disagrees with any of it that he said at all. Do you?
No, the issue is this looks. I think this looks bad on the coaching staff and Sark, because if you had the culture of we handle these things in-house and he should feel comfortable or should have been given some type of major leadership position to say these things, to kind of whip these kids into shape or to make his feelings known in the locker room, then it never comes out like this. Obviously, he felt like whatever was happening in the locker room wasn't getting taken care of. Where are the coaches at? Where are the other coaches at? Where are the other leaders at? And if he feels like he's alone on an island, then yeah, he's going to go to social media or to any other media folk he can and say these things. It's real easy to say we should handle these things in house. Well, the reason he didn't is because obviously that opportunity wasn't afforded to him.
Yeah, that is an interesting take on that. I had thought about it a little bit, but part of me wonders if he was doing the same thing that he has seen other coaches do, right? Nick Saban is notorious for this. He tells the kids, and then he uses the media as a way to get his message across. The problem is, if you are one of those players, I don't know that your message gets across that much better. And as a matter of fact, it could, if you're saying it to the press, even after you may have said it to the guys on the team, going out and taking that stuff public can certainly put a divide in the locker room, right? And that's where that would become a little bit of an issue. He did talk quite a bit about players being distracted from football, and their focus is on crumbs instead of the whole cake. NIL makes your mind turn its focus to more social media and more exposure. Like all these different, this guy went on for 20-something minutes. And what I don't understand is, again, where is the SID that is like, all right, yeah, guys, we got to wrap this thing up, like looking at his watch or whatever, like, hey, we got one more question, like that's it. I just don't know how that is allowed to continue on. And it's a big reason why you see coaches all over the country that limit these media availabilities, right? Like, it's not that he said anything that was wrong or against what the coaches actually think or anything like that. It's sometimes maybe you try and save the kid from himself. Like, we appreciate the honesty, obviously, because it gives us stuff to talk about. Because we always want these guys to be honest as opposed to giving us the same old line, right? But in this situation, I just wonder why there was nobody there to, like, walk this guy back a little bit. Hey, you sure you want to talk about all this in front of these media guys? Like, are you sure that you're wanting to do this? It just seemed like such a weird event, a weird thing to happen. And don't get me wrong, this guy is incredibly smart. He's brilliant. Really smart guy. Like, he's going to graduate with honors and everything else. Like, he's been there for 4 years. He is an experienced dude. But this just seemed odd to have this happen in April, right? Do you agree with that?
I guess it might, like I said, the reason he does it, he goes to the media and he goes outside the locker room is because he just didn't feel like he was going to be heard inside the locker room. And that's because the culture is what it is. And if there's a divide, do you think the people that are so embedded in doing the things that he's complaining about doing, do you think that, one, conversation in a locker room is going to just instantly whip them into shape, and they're just going to fall in line. Because I feel like he just feels like, I'm done with these bastards. I'm out. I don't want to be a part of this. This ain't the Texas football I signed up to play, and I want to play with tough guys who want to be a part of a team. And this ain't it. And why would I go into that locker room and say those things? And once again, I put so much of that on Sark. That has to, at some point in time, where are the coaches? So you're worried about where are the people controlling him? Where are the people corralling him and keeping him from saying these things? Where are the people not getting these damn guys in line?
You remember Bo Davis last year? There was the video that came out late in the season. Bo Davis just MFing people on the bus because kids are laughing after they got blown out somewhere, right? And he didn't understand why they didn't care and all this. And I do wonder if some of that they're still trying to work through, right? And obviously, I'm not a Sark apologist by any stretch of the imagination. I told you immediately why I thought that he would not be successful at Texas. It's, this is just such a strange situation there that I don't know how they can fix this. Like, I just.
But they need it. I'm going to tell you this. So, like, I know there's a lot of people that don't like Brian Kelly. That's fine. Yeah. Brian Kelly's not the God's gift to the greatest coaches in the world. All right, he's got major flaws. Whatever. He's now my
good coach though.
But let me tell you what I've witnessed him do at LSU. Okay, for the last 4 years at LSU, they have had a major culture issue. Okay, it was guys not practicing hard, not showing up on time, not taking care of their studies, like the very basic things. They were winning football games because they had just unexplainably good talent, okay? And they had good coaching, but they didn't have any strong leadership and culture at all right?
Or if they did, it was through the players themselves, right?
It was through the players themselves. That's fine.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly has come in, and he has been working hard to address this. Texas has to find someone who will come in and who will lead in culture, who will change the culture of Texas. That's the problem. Is they need someone to come in and completely overhaul the culture.
I'll tell you this, we've talked about this ad nauseum. The culture at Texas may be unchangeable. Like, it really might be, because there are so many people around that program, just boosters, people with money, etc.
But a strong AD has to come in and whip that shit into shape, and hire a strong head coach that's going to tell all those boosters that, listen, this ain't your country club, okay? You don't dictate things here. Do you want Texas to be great, or do you want to be famous here?
Yeah,
because you can't have both.
That is a good point. We've talked about it a lot. I'm curious. I'm curious what it's going to be like.
To say it's unfixable, I just disagree, because somebody will be strong enough to walk in the door and say, win or lose, it's all going to be on me. But it's going to be on me, damn it. And if I have to take the losses, and I have to take the arrows, and I have to take the bullets, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to at least take them my way. All right? If I have to take all this shit doing it your way and doing the things you say that are right that I disagree with, no, can't abide by that. Can't handle that. Can't live like that.
Yeah, that's what it's going to have to be.
I'm going to get fired going out my way.
Yeah.
My shit don't work, I can sleep at night. I can live with myself. But if I do all the shit you want to do and I get fired, no, I can't. That just don't sleep, well with me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. Let's go on and move to the NFL real quick. We've got two more topics that I want to hit before we get out of here.
All right, we got to roll.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm jumping to it, because I wanted you in on this one. Baker Mayfield. Now, he was on the You Know What I Mean podcast, and he was asked if he felt that the team's acquisition of Deshaun Watson was disrespectful. And he said, I feel disrespected 100%. Now, obviously, this is a strange situation, right? Because he was the starting quarterback, and they brought in another starter right behind him. He said, I was told one thing, they completely did another. That's what I'm in the middle of right now. And then he goes on and talks about, and I don't say the quotes right now, but what exactly was it? It was basically like he doesn't know where he's going to play, or he was whining about, I would love to see anybody come into their cubicle and get booed in their own office and see them falter like the way that I was doing. He said, I'm just looking for stabilization right now. I know what I need to do for me to be the best version of me and to be able to lead an organization. He said, I'm in a good place right now. I have no clue where I'm going. I'm curious your thoughts on this, because this just all comes across as whining to me. They wouldn't have had to go look for another quarterback if you had played up to the level that we think are capable of playing, or that they need their quarterback to be capable of playing. Right? Like, what people get booed all the time. Like, what is he talking about?
Yeah. No, well, he doesn't live in the real world. He's never lived in the real world. This guy, like, I know that he didn't have a scholarship and all this stuff. Since his days at Oklahoma, this guy has been cheered his entire life since then. Okay. He's been celebrated every day since his days at Oklahoma. All right. And now you're in the professional world. Okay. It is the duty to the other players on the team to put the best roster together that you possibly can. So let's take the Deshaun Watson factor into this. Had they went out and got Russell, this is the question that I would ask. Had they went out and got a guy like Russell Wilson, the classiest of classy individuals who has no skeletons in his closet, no red flags whatsoever, if they went out and got an upgrade like that, would you still feel disrespected? Or is this a Deshaun Watson, I can't believe I'm a choir boy and he's, a troublemaker, and they went and got a guy like that? So that would be a question that I would ask, because if it's just about football, then let's talk about football. And if it's just the character of a man, then you got to understand at some point in time, those other 53 men in the locker room don't give a shit about the character, because their paychecks, their families determine on winning and losing. Okay. And they want the best guy to team up with that they can, so they can support themselves. All right. Because not everybody's got these $90 million TV deals from Progressive. Okay.
Nope.
Not everybody else gets that. So that would be my argument to is this a football thing or not? Because if it's about football, it's the team's duty to put together the best roster they can. And if they can get an upgrade, nobody would argue that Deshaun Watson is not a massive, not a small upgrade, a massive upgrade from an X's and O standpoint. Now, let's get to Baker and his emotions. I have used the phrase, and I will continue to use the phrase, Baker's biggest problem is Baker goes on social media, goes on these podcasts, goes on wherever he can get a voice, which he has a loud voice, he has access to a massive platform, and he just menstruates his emotions, his feelings all over the place, all the time. And it's really old, and it wears on people. Now, if you do that and you're great, people will overlook it. If you do that and you're average, they just can't handle it, okay? You know the reason Ryan Tannehill and Kirk Cousins keep their jobs and keep their paychecks coming every year, week in and week out? You know the reason of that? Because they say nothing. They say nothing. They are average, they are mediocre, and they keep their damn mouth shut, okay? They go out there and they roll out an 8-8 or a whatever record every year, and nobody says boo about it. But you roll out these same resumes with, some great stats, some terrible stats, just like both those guys, and you are not just publicly criticized for it. Now, there's not a single one of the other 31 teams calling the Browns interested in you. He will be lucky to get a backup role, and he is a starting.
Yes.
There aren't 32 other men on the planet better at quarterback than he is right now in the NFL, but it's his attitude and his distraction. How do you walk into a locker room and claim that you're a leader when all you do is whine and cry, and also not take personal responsibility for things? I understand that the deck was stacked against you. I understand that you got drafted to a garbage football team in a program that never wins. I understand that you went through 4 head coaches in 4 years and all these OCs. I understand that all those things happen. All right? But at some point in time, You have to take responsibility. You have to say you play better. Now, you're using the excuse that you played hurt all last year. But then last year, we have clips of you saying, I'm not playing hurt. If I didn't think I was 100% or couldn't give the team 100%, I wouldn't be out there. I'm playing because it's 100% my call. There's clips of him saying these things. So, are you going to use the excuse, or was it 100% your call? Because you don't get it both ways, man. You just don't.
Now, he's just trying to say whatever he thinks the people around him would like him to say, and that is a problem. I do find this interesting because this is a quick way to lose a locker room. You are still on the roster, but
no, he's not. He's not on the roster. He won't even take a practice snap. If nobody trades for him after the draft, he'll be released.
You think so?
He will. I don't care if Deshaun Watson is suspended for 16 games or 17 games, the whole season next year. They will go into this season with Jacoby
Brissett
as their quarterback, as their quarterback, and that'll be what they will do, because he will not take another step as a Browns. They are just hoping that they get a draft weekend trade. Somebody will make a move for him, and they can get something for him. But if that doesn't happen, he will be released, and I'm very curious, once he's released, will anybody pick him up?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I tend to agree because I don't know of anybody that wants this in their locker room.
I'm going to tell you this. If you're Tyler Lockett and you're DK Metcalf sitting in Seattle, you're not real happy with the Drew Lock situation.
Agreed.
But I guarantee you, those two guys would probably say, I'll take my chances with a guy like Drew, who so far has just been a battler and a warrior fighting for a spot, than a guy who feels like the keys should have been handed to me and no competition should be given. And every criticism, he just shows up somewhere on some platform whining and crying about it.
It just blows my mind. I don't understand how, if you're Baker Mayfield, you know that you're a starter. Just say that you welcome the competition. We've seen this before. Teams have paid quarterbacks a ton of money. If you were hurt last year, because look at Matt Flynn. You talked about Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Russell Wilson comes in as a third-round draft pick and beats him out.
And wins the job.
If you want to do something, go out and prove it on the field. Don't just think that they should have handed you the keys. My gosh, they're trying to get better.
But he's meant. Listen, Baker's a great athlete. Baker's a hell of a ball player. Baker's about middle of the pack quarterback, which is not. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, There's not a shame in that. But middle of the pack quarterback with all this baggage don't get it done. It just don't.
Nope.
I'm going to tell you this, and I know this ain't going to go over real well with a lot of people. If you told me I'm in Seattle right now, I got DK Metcalf, I got Tyler Lockett sitting here saying, hey, what are we going to do, coach? Give me Colin Kaepernick that hadn't taken a snap in 3 years, but also hadn't taken a hit in 3 years, who's completely healthy, over a Baker Mayfield who is this mentally weak and coming off of whatever surgery or rehab that he's having to do. Give that to me all day long. And you say, okay, that goes well because it's in Seattle. Put that shit in Nashville and give me the same thing. If Ryan Tannehill fell off the world tomorrow, okay, and your two options were in the heart of the deep South were Colin Kaepernick or Baker Mayfield, I'm telling you, Colin would shut a lot of people up because I think he'd be better than Baker. And at least he's going to go out there and compete.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that I don't know that Kaepernick would come out and complain the way that the Baker does. Now, obviously, Kaepernick has done his Kaepernick has complained over the past so many years.
But it hasn't been anything about stuff like this. It hasn't been about his criticism. It hasn't been about this stuff. Okay.
Agreed.
So,
but
I can disagree with a lot of things with Colin, but at the same time, we can understand that we're just trying to make the football team better. Okay, that's our only objective, is making this football team better.
You got that right. While I've got you the last couple of minutes here, you brought up middle of the pack quarterbacks. Just because you're middle of the pack quarterback doesn't mean that you can't keep your job if you keep your mouth shut and just go out and work, right? Derek Carr, 3 years, over $121 million. He said he hopes that this extension, it's supposed to be a team-friendly deal, which I guess $40 million a year is team-friendly now for a quarterback. But on top of that, he said the last time he signed a contract extension, his best friend left. He was talking about Khalil Mack, right? So Khalil Mack wanted a big contract too, and he ended up being traded to the Bears. Now he's over in L.A., like blah, 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 blah. But what do you think about the deal for Derek Carr here?
Good deal for Carr. Really curious to see how this Raiders roster works out. Carr is, man, I mean, you're talking about, I don't even have the appropriate analogy for what the AFC West is right now. All four of those teams. Well, I think the other three teams are loaded with talent. I think this Raiders team is good, and if they were in, the AFC South, I think they'd be the favorite to win. I think it'd be them in Tennessee, and they'd be head and head, and I think they'd be real close.
Oh yeah.
But against those other three hombres, woo, brother.
It is tough stuff.
It's something on that, man. And while I like Carr, and I don't have anything against Carr. Carr is not Wilson. Carr is not Justin Herbert. Carr is not Patrick Mahomes. He is
middle of the pack.
Those three guys, listen, one of these ain't like the other, okay?
He is top 15 in, like, basically every metric, but I don't know that he's top 10 in a whole lot of them.
He's the middle of the road. Listen,
yeah.
To me, if you replace Derek Carr, and I know this is going to sound shitty to some of these guys, but if you replace Derek Carr with a Ryan Tannehill or a Kirk Cousins or any of these other, they're no different. They're no different. I kind of like Carr better than those other guys because I've seen him really, really deal with adversity and handle it pretty well. Like, I like, if we're going to, like, quantify leadership, because it's something like we just knocked Baker for pretty harsh. I like Carr's leadership a lot. Not a little, a lot. So he gets the nod over all of those guys because I do think he can demand respect in the locker room because of what he's seen, what he's been through, and how he's handled it in the past, and how he's battled with those other teams. Go look at his resume against those juggernauts. Go look at his resume against the Chargers and the Chiefs the last couple of years. And he don't back down from those teams.
No, he made the playoffs.
But, man, he's in dogfights with them.
Yeah, he made the playoffs last year. Like, after his coach got fired. Like, just unbelievable stuff, man.
So, pretty incredible. Good on him for going and getting some money. I do hope he's right. Look, I've said it before. As the salary cap begins to go up and up and up, listen, people think this is going to be better for the team. It ain't going to be any different for the teams. Every one of these teams are going to look the exact same. Every nickel more is going to the quarterbacks. It just is.
I tend to agree.
If you're a guard and guards are making $7 million a year, I have no idea what they're making. I just pulled the number out of my ass. So guards are making $7 million a year today. 4 years from now, when the salary cap has $50 million more on it, guards will be making maybe 8, maybe 7.5. But they're not making 10. They're not making 15. They're just not.
No.
They're not gonna double their salary. The quarterbacks have gone from 20 to 40 pretty damn fast.
Hey, you got that right. You have got that right. All right.
All right, brother.
I need to let you go.
I appreciate you. I'm going to go jump in here and do this bid.
Do what you need to do, my friend. We will talk later.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Chris. We'll close out with this. The USFL starts up this weekend, April 16th, Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We are going to have the first cross-network broadcast or a dual network broadcast of a sporting event since Super Bowl I. We're going to have Fox and NBC doing the New Jersey Generals against the Birmingham Stallions. Now, every game in the USFL this year is going to be in Birmingham, so all these different teams, even though we've got the Houston Gamblers and the Michigan Panthers and the Philadelphia Stars and the New Orleans, et cetera, they're all in Birmingham. So if you want to see a USFL game, you got to go to Birmingham, which is going to be interesting. But I am curious how this is going to play out. This kind of shows that these networks really, really want spring football to take off. They understand the value in this. The USFL is set up very differently. They're paying their players like $45,000. There's a lot of questions into, like, you're going to see a lot of interesting stuff, I think, on Saturday night. So I would recommend tuning in to see what's going on. Along with that, you got 3 games on Sunday as well. You got one at 12 p.m. Eastern, one at 4 p.m. Eastern, one at 8 p.m. Eastern. This is a 10-week season. It should end sometime early July, I think, somewhere around there. And then we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. I'm curious what they do with this to make it successful, because you've got one season to really ingrain this thing into people, and then next year the XFL starts up. And I don't know that there's room for both of them. So we will see what the USFL does. They are in the middle of a lawsuit right now from the original USFL. So we'll see what happens there as well. Who knows? But I do find it interesting. I do want to see what happens. I'm curious. Very, very curious. Along with that, we got more spring football games for college football. Florida tonight, Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We get to see Billy Napier for the first time. And then along with that, you've got Arkansas, Miami, and Mississippi State. Oh, and Ohio State at 12 p.m. Eastern time. You've got Georgia at 1 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. Mississippi State, Wake Forest at 2 p.m. Eastern. Alabama at 3 Eastern. And South Carolina, under the lights, Shane Beamer. We get to see Spencer Rattler in that bunch with Corey Rucker, the transfer from Arkansas State, stud wide receiver. We get to see that at 7 p.m. Eastern time on SEC Network. Lots to keep up with on Easter weekend. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Hopefully all of you have wonderful Easter weekends. We hope that you have plenty of things to gamble on. Of course, the USFL starting up again, like I talked about. But with that, I hope that you take care of yourself, take care of each other, and hopefully all of your tickets cash this week. Thanks for checking out Winning Cures Everything. If you want to keep up with us, hit subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Visit the website at winningcureseverything.com, or you can like us on Facebook or follow us at Winning Cures, at Gary WCE, or at Chris B. Giannini on Twitter. Share out the show